Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about how to install a Python IDE. In the previous chapter, where we have seen how to run a Hello World program, we've used some basic methods like run it in the Python console or using the idle editor. But like I said, that's not good enough. We need to have some kind of a Python IDE or integrated development environment to be set up so that we can run programs much more efficient. And we'll see in the later parts of the course what I mean by efficiently. Things like debugging, storing programs in an orderly fashion, using configuration management, using source control like GitHub. All of that can be done right inside an IDE without having to go for different tool sets. All right. So what are the choices? There are so many different choices for Python IDE. If you Google Python IDE, there are probably 10 or 12 different popular Python IDEs. And if you are a beginner in code, the word IDE might scare you. Don't let it scare you. It's just an environment, integrated development environment. So you have a bunch of choices. The ones that we are going to use, for the most part, Jupyter Notebook. So this is the one that we'll be using for the most part, specifically Jupyter Lab, which is the latest version. This is good for demos, not just in teaching, but if you want to package something and send it to your colleague saying, hey, this is what I've been doing. What do you think? For stuff like that, Jupyter Notebook is excellent. In fact, it is built for that, to share code, and then your colleague would be able to run that code right away in the browser. On the other hand, if you want to do some serious development, you got to have some kind of an editor. And that's where Visual Studio Code, Sublime Text, there are so many other choices like PyCharm that come into play. So we'll briefly talk about how to install Visual Studio Code, Sublime Text, and Jupyter Notebook, all three of them. Starting with Visual Studio Code. Now this is an IDE from Microsoft, and you can use it both on Windows and Mac environment. All you have to do is click on this link, Visual Studio Code, and it will take you to this website. You can click on download for Windows, and then it will download that executable program. And installing it is really simple. You can install it in any location you like. And once you install that, your icon is going to look something like this, right? If you don't see it on your desktop, you can just go to search and then say Visual Studio Code and then pin it onto your start. Okay, so let's start it. And in documents, let's say I create a new folder, say demo, select that folder, and it opens that folder over here. So this is how we create a new file, and then say hello.python, right? And then say print hello world, save it, save, or you can do Control S, and then right click and say run Python file in terminal, right? See that? It has run that file, C Ajitech documents demo hello.python, using the Python shell program, and the output is hello world. Simple, right? Now, as soon as you install Visual Studio, there are some things that are missing that you would have to install. So those are called extensions. Go to this, click on this link, and then type in Python. And the first thing that you see is this Python for linting, debugging, so on and so forth. If you click that, the publisher is Microsoft. So make sure that the publisher is Microsoft. At this point, I already have it installed. If not, there'll be an install button here. All you have to do is click on that button, and then that's it. Once it's installed, just restart Visual Studio Code and you'll be all set. And if you're wondering why the color is black and not black on your installation, that's because I have set it to a darker theme. Do that. You can go for a lighter theme like this, right? So this is a lighter theme. It's all white and black. Some people like light themes, some people like dark themes, but especially if you're going to be programming at night, I would rather prefer that you go with the dark theme. For example, dark Visual Studio, this is good, right? Another advantage with using IDEs is that it gives syntax highlighting. For example, this is a string and it says hello world is a string, right? That's why it's it has a different color here. And then, for example, if you do something else like for I in range of 10 colon, essentially code to print hello world 10 times, you see that for is a keyword and that's been highlighted. If you run this, see that hello world is printed 10 times. The point being, an IDE will help you so much with syntax highlighting. So this is just one IDE, Visual Studio Code. Another IDE which is called Sublime Text. Okay, this is another popular IDE that can be used for many different programming languages, not just Python. And same with Visual Studio Code as well. You can do JavaScript, you can do Python, you can do C, C, C++, many different programming languages. These are very versatile IDEs. That's one of the reasons why I'm not showing you an editor that's popular also with Python called PyCharm. That's specifically designed for Python, but it's a bit heavy. If you want, you can go there, search for PyCharm, right? JetBrains PyCharm. So you can download it. There is a paid version, but there is a free community version as well. So download and then choose the community version. It's free, right? And it's a bit heavy because there's a whole lot of support for professional development that's built into PyCharm. So that's not a bad choice, but Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code should be good enough. You don't miss anything when you choose those IDEs. But like I said, PyCharm is more professional. It's got so many features, but the downside is that it's slow. So I don't use it. You can choose to use it. Okay, so Sublime Text again is very popular. It's available both on Windows and Mac, your choice. And I don't want to really go on and on about how to install Sublime Text and how to enable this extension, so on and so forth. You can just Google it and then find it. The reason why I'm not going too much into Sublime Text or other editors is because for the most part in this course we'll be using something called as Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Lab. If you did not install Anaconda, like I said, the way to install a Jupyter Notebook, we're going to talk about Jupyter Notebook in a bit, but the way to install a Jupyter Notebook is by going to the command line, and if you already have Python installed, all you have to do is say pip, let me copy this here, pip install Jupyter, okay, pip install Jupyter. And sometimes you might not have the permissions because you're not an administrator on the PC that you're working on. So in cases like that, just type in -- user. Okay, if it is already satisfied, it says requirement already satisfied. If not, it's going to install it for you. In my case, it's already installed. Now that it's installed, how do you invoke? To start Jupyter, all you have to do is type in Jupyter Notebook. Okay, there you go, localhost. Okay, if it doesn't open up on the browser, you can just copy it like so and then paste it like so, and that's your Jupyter Notebook. Now in case of you're wondering why this is an IDE, you'll see why in a bit. The advantage of using Jupyter is that you can do everything in the browser, but make sure that this window is not closed. For example, if you close this window, this tab won't be responsive in the browser. So think of this as the backend, the engine, and keep it minimized like this. Just minimize it and then go about doing everything that you want in Jupyter Notebook in the browser. Now this is your directory, right? It starts with /, meaning at the base location, and your downloads, documents, desktop, everything is available for you. Say you want to create a new Jupyter file in documents. So select documents and then say new Python 3 notebook. Opens up another tab, and this is your IDE. Now in case you don't trust me, you can try using the print statement. Print hello world. And as you can see, there's syntax highlighting and all the good stuff is all there. And to run this, put your cursor in the corresponding cell and then click on run, right? Your output is listed right there. Now I don't want to talk too much about Jupyter Notebook at this point, because that's what we'll be doing through the entire course. We'll run everything in Jupyter, and all the code that's there on the website is available in Jupyter Notebooks. I'll give you the location for that. It's all available on GitHub. There is another version of Jupyter Notebook called Jupyter Lab. You can install that by using pip install Jupyter Lab. Now the only difference is, instead of pip install Jupyter, you say pip install Jupyter Lab. And pip is the name of the program or package manager. No big deal. We'll learn about it later, but think of it as a package manager. It can take care of installing packages, deinstalling packages, dependencies between packages, so on and so forth. Installing Jupyter Lab is simple. Pip install Jupyter Lab, and then to invoke Jupyter Lab, just say Jupyter Lab. And the interface is a bit sophisticated. Think of it like the latest version of Jupyter Notebook, and it has dark mode, so you can program all night if you want. And the interface, so these files are interchangeable. So as soon, for example, you have created this file, right? Change the name to hello world. That's the name of the Python notebook. And if you go back to your documents, you'll see your Python notebook as a .ipynb, IPython notebook. And you can open it either in Jupyter Notebook or in Jupyter Lab. Either way it works. Okay, let's quickly wrap up what we have learned in this video. We talked a brief bit about what an IDE is, and we will talk about IDE more as we progress through the course. We have talked specifically about two IDEs, one being Visual Studio Code and another being Jupyter Notebook. There are so many other choices like Sublime Text, PyCharm, and then if you just Google Python IDE, there will be so many different choices here, right? PyCharm, Wing IDE, Idle, Spider, Atom. This one is from Facebook. So there are a whole variety of choices. Now in this course, we'll be using Jupyter Notebook, and we have seen the installation of Jupyter Notebook and its latest version, Jupyter Lab, and we'll be using Jupyter Lab through this course. But Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter Lab, both of them create the same files and they are interchangeable. The next thing is, where is all the code that we write or that we are going to write in this course? So everything is there on this GitHub page. Don't worry about noting down this URL. It's available in many places on our website. So this is day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. So everything is there. You can go to day 1, for example, and then find all the different Python notebooks. So for example, built-in functions. So this is the Python notebook, and a view of that Python notebook is available here. If you want to download the entire repository, you just go here and you can just say clone or download. You can download the entire thing as a zip file, for example, download zip, and then the entire repository will be available for you as a zip file. So open it, show in folder, just enough Python, and day 1, these are all the different IPython notebooks. Okay, so that finishes day 0. So we're all set. We know why we are doing this course. We know why we are learning Python. We have already set up Python. We have written our first Hello World program, and then we've also got our IDE setup. So from tomorrow, day one, we'll start with the Python basics. And like I said, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to do any specific reading. You don't have to be from a programming background. We'll start from scratch and talk about variables, type conversions. As you can see from the content, it's a very basic course, and irrespective of your background, you should be able to learn Python well enough to take on machine learning and deep learning. All right, see you on day one.